In a world filled with chaos and uncertainty, many seek wisdom to navigate life's challenges. Some turn to philosophy, others to nature. But what if the greatest lessons of Stoicism, resilience, patience, and inner strength, were already written in the silent footsteps of the earth's most majestic creature? Deep in the African wilderness, where survival is a daily battle and every challenge is a test of endurance, lived an elephant named Temba. Unlike others who reacted to every hardship with fear or frustration, Temba embodied true stoicism. He faced droughts without despair, danger without panic, and hardship without complaint. To him, life was neither fair nor unfair. It simply was. And the only way forward was to embrace it step by step with wisdom and strength. This is not just a story about an elephant. It's a journey into the heart of Stoicism, seen through the eyes of nature's greatest philosopher. As you follow Temba's path, you may just discover the principles that can change the way you face your own challenges. So, if you've ever wondered how to remain calm in the face of adversity, if you've ever sought to master your emotions rather than be ruled by them, then stay with us until the end. Temba's journey may hold the answers you've been searching for. Chapter 1. The Dawn of a Stoic Giant. Beneath the golden hues of the African sunrise, an elephant named Temba slowly stirred from his slumber. Unlike the restless creatures that darted anxiously at the slightest sound, Temba woke with deliberate grace. He stretched his massive trunk, took in the crisp air, and let out a deep, rumbling sigh, an elephant's equivalent of a morning meditation. Temba had lived through scorching droughts, prowling predators, and the ever-present whispers of change in the wilderness. But he was not one to lament circumstances beyond his control. He was, after all, a true practitioner of Amor Fati, accepting life as it came, embracing both the joys and the hardships with equal measure. As he often thought to himself, if the rains bless us, we drink. If they abandon us, we walk. The herd around him slowly began to stir. Young calves, still untouched by the weight of experience, playfully stumbled over one another. The elder elephants, like Temba, moved with a quiet wisdom, their every action measured and purposeful. The matriarch, an elephant older than any in the herd, let out a low call, a signal that the day's journeys would soon begin. Water was scarce, and the herd needed to move if they were to survive the dry season. As they walked, Temba observed the young ones who still struggled with the concept of patience. One calf, frustrated with the slow march, trumpeted in annoyance. Temba smiled inwardly, remembering when he too was young and impatient. He approached the calf and spoke in a voice deep with experience. "We do not walk because we wish to," he said. "We walk because it is the way of life. Every step forward is a step toward survival." The calf, though still frustrated, quieted, sensing the weight of Temba's wisdom. And so the herd continued, their great forms moving across the endless savanna, driven not by hope nor fear, but by the simple, unshakable resolve to endure. Temba had learned through years of hardship that to resist reality was to suffer needlessly. Whether the path was kind or cruel, it was to be walked just the same. And so, with every step he took, he embraced life as it was, not as he wished it to be. Chapter 2. The Art of Eating with Moderation. It was no secret that an elephant required enormous amounts of food, somewhere between 150 to 300 kilograms of leaves, bark, and fruits per day. But Temba never gorged himself in reckless indulgence. No matter how lush the greenery appeared, he ate with a sense of balance, knowing that excess today could mean scarcity tomorrow. He understood that the savannah was ever-changing, and only those who prepared for the future could endure its trials. His young nephew, a rather enthusiastic and impatient calf named Zuberi, had yet to learn this wisdom. One afternoon, after a particularly abundant meal near a dense grove of acacia trees, Zuberi lay on his back, his stomach distended. "I can't move," he groaned dramatically. "I think I ate too much." Temba chuckled, a deep, gravelly sound. "Wisdom, dear nephew, is knowing when to stop before you regret." He nudged Zuberi to his feet. "Come, walk with me. A full stomach should never be an excuse for laziness." Reluctantly, Zuberi followed. The sun cast golden rays upon the endless grasslands as they moved forward. Temba led him toward a nearby watering hole, a place not just for drinking, but for observing the delicate balance of nature. As they approached, they noticed a group of warthogs splashing and drinking greedily, unaware of the crocodile lurking beneath the surface. Temba raised his trunk and let out a low, warning rumble. "Watch carefully, Zuberi. Greed makes one blind to danger." Zuberi's eyes widened as, in a sudden burst, the crocodile lunged, narrowly missing one of the warthogs. The others squealed in terror, scattering away. Temba gave his nephew a knowing look. Taking more than necessary, lingering longer than needed, it all has its price. Zuberi gulped and nodded, feeling the lesson sink in. As they continued their walk, they came across a fallen baobab tree. It was an elder of the savannah, its bark stripped bare by years of feeding from elephants, giraffes, and insects alike. "Why did trees like this fall, Uncle?" Zuberi asked. Temba traced the deep grooves of the trunk with his trunk. "Because they forget to pace themselves. Even giants fall when they take too much without giving back." He gestured toward a younger baobab tree standing nearby, strong and thriving. But those who know restraint, who adapt and endure, stand for centuries. Zuberi pondered this in silence. He had always thought of eating as a simple pleasure, a moment of indulgence. But now he saw it as something greater, a test of discipline, a way to understand the rhythms of the land. That night, under a vast sky full of stars, Zuberi lay close to his uncle. His stomach had settled, and so had his thoughts. "I think I understand now," he murmured. "Too much of anything, food, comfort, even water, can lead to trouble." Temba nodded, resting his heavy head on his front legs. "Balance, my dear nephew. It is the foundation of all things." With that, the great elephant closed his eyes, content in the wisdom he had passed down, knowing that tomorrow would bring new lessons for both teacher and student. Chapter 3. Facing the Lion with Tranquility. The sun had barely risen when the distant roar of a lion rumbled across the plains. Some members of the herd tensed, ears flaring, tails swishing. Fear was a natural response. But Temba remained still, observing. Zuberi shivered. "Uncle Temba, shouldn't we run?" Temba shook his head slowly. "Number panic leads to poor decisions. We assess first, then act." He turned his wise eyes toward the source of the roar. "A lion will not waste energy attacking us unless it is desperate. Strength alone is not enough. Patience and observation are just as powerful." As if on cue, the lion emerged from the tall grass, but instead of charging, it hesitated. Faced with the silent, unmoving bulk of the elephants, it reconsidered. Eventually, with a snarl of resignation, it retreated into the shadows. Zuberi blinked in amazement. "You didn't even fight," Temba smiled. "Victory is not always about conflict. Sometimes it is about knowing when to stand firm." As the morning light grew stronger, the herd resumed its journey, but the tension of the lion's presence lingered, especially in the younger elephants. Zuberi, still shaken, kept glancing over his shoulder. Temba noticed and slowed his pace to walk beside his nephew. "What troubles you, young one?" "What if the lion returns?" Zuberi whispered. "What if there are more of them?" Temba let out a low, thoughtful rumble. "The world is full of what-ifs, Zuberi. If we spent our lives fearing what could happen, we would never move forward." He gestured toward an acacia tree ahead, where a family of birds chirped in the branches. "Do you see them? They build their nests despite the storms that may come. They do not sit in fear, waiting for the wind to blow them away." Zuberi watched the birds for a long moment, his young mind absorbing the lesson. Just then, another sound split the air, a rustling in the grass followed by a second, closer growl. The lion had not left after all. A ripple of unease passed through the herd. This time, it was not just one lion. A second emerged from the brush, eyes locked on the elephants. They were thin, desperate, perhaps driven by hunger after a failed hunt. Zuberi's heart pounded. "Uncle, now we should run, right?" Temba remained calm, his great ears tilting forward. Number, we must be still and strong. Watch. The matriarch of the herd, a wise old elephant named Marula, stepped forward, lifting her head high. She let out a deep, echoing trumpet, a sound of both warning and authority. The other adult elephants followed suit, forming a protective wall around the calves. The lions hesitated again. They were hungry, but not foolish. Taking down an elephant, let alone an entire herd standing as one, was not worth the risk. After several tense moments, the lions turned and slunk away. Zuberi exhaled, his legs shaking. "We didn't fight. We didn't run. We just stood together." Temba placed his trunk gently on Zuberi's head. "Courage is not the absence of fear, nephew. It is the mastery of it. Strength is not in reckless action, but in unity and patience." As the herd continued their journey, Zuberi walked taller, understanding now that true power was not in the charge, but in the wisdom to know when to stand one's ground. Chapter 4. The Wisdom of Water. One of the greatest trials of any elephant's life was the long trek to find water. Drought was a merciless teacher, and only the wise survived its lessons. Temba had learned long ago that complaining would not fill his trunk with water. During one such journey, Zuberi huffed in frustration. Why must the water be so far? Temba continued walking, his pace steady. Because life does not give us what we want. It gives us what we work for. But I'm tired. Then be tired, Temba said with a shrug. But keep walking. The water does not move towards us, so we must move towards it. As they trudged forward, a sudden gust of wind howled across the savannah, kicking up a blinding wall of dust. The herd hesitated. The path ahead was now obscured, and panic stirred among the younger elephants. Zuberi squeezed closer to Temba. What if we get lost? Temba did not break stride. Trust your senses. The sun still rises where it always does. The wind does not change the direction of water. Fear only blinds you if you let it. Step by step, they moved forward. The dust storm eventually passed, revealing the path once more. But before they could celebrate, a new challenge emerged. A pride of lions lounged near the scarce water source. Their golden eyes flickered with interest, sensing an opportunity. Some elephants hesitated, their thirst momentarily forgotten. Zuberi swallowed hard. Should we turn back? Temba gazed at the lions calmly. Number, we do not surrender what we need out of fear. With slow, deliberate movements, Temba led the herd forward. The lions watched, but did not attack. An elephant in fear was vulnerable, but an elephant in control was untouchable. Hours later, when the herd finally reached the watering hole, Zuberi plunged his trunk in with sheer delight. Temba drank deeply, then looked at his nephew with a knowing smile. See? The reward is sweetest when earned, and courage is knowing which battles are fought without lifting a foot. Chapter 5. The Stoic Elephant's Legacy.
Years passed, and Zuberi grew into a strong, wise elephant. He had learned to embrace each challenge with calm determination, to eat with moderation, to face threats with wisdom, and to walk long journeys without complaint. The lessons of his uncle Temba were etched into his very being, guiding him through the seasons of his life. One scorching afternoon, the herd stood at the edge of a dried-up waterhole. The calves stomped their feet in frustration, their trunks reaching for mud that had long since hardened under the relentless sun. The older elephants murmured in concern, but panic was kept at bay, because they had Zuberi.
He closed his eyes, recalling the wisdom Temba had once shared. Life does not give us what we want. It gives us what we work for. Turning to the herd, he rumbled with quiet authority. The water is not gone. It is simply farther away. We must keep moving. Though weary, the herd trusted him, just as he had once trusted Temba. They pressed on, step by step, through the parched savannah. The journey tested them, yet Zuberi never wavered. His patience, his endurance, his unwavering resolve, it was all a tribute to his mentor's teachings. Finally, after hours of relentless trekking, they found it, a hidden oasis, shimmering in the distance like a promise fulfilled. The calves let out joyous cries. splashing into the cool relief while the elders drank deeply. Zuberi stood at the edge, watching them, feeling the weight of responsibility settle upon him, not as a burden, but as an honor. Later that evening, as he watched the younger calves play in the dust, he remembered his old mentor's words. He turned to his own nephew, who was whining about a fallen fruit being out of reach. Zuberi smiled and said, "If the fruit does not fall to you, then you must walk to the fruit." His nephew hesitated, then stretched his trunk forward, determined. And so, the wisdom of the Stoic elephant lived on, passed down through generations, as steady and enduring as the great creatures themselves. Final thoughts.
The elephant's way of life is a profound reflection of Stoic philosophy. Through their disciplined approach to survival, their unwavering resilience in the face of hardship, their patience in enduring long journeys, and their wisdom in knowing when to act and when to remain still, they embody virtues that humanity has long aspired to achieve. Life, like the vast African plains, is unpredictable. There will be times of abundance and times of scarcity, moments of triumph and moments of challenge. But as Temba has shown us, true strength lies not in resisting the inevitable, but in embracing it with grace. Like the elephant, we must learn to walk forward, one deliberate step at a time, without fear, without complaint, and with full acceptance of the path before us.
If this story has inspired you, don't forget to share and subscribe to our channel for more thought-provoking narratives. Join our community of seekers who, like the wise elephant, strive for balance, wisdom, and resilience in their own lives. Until next time, remember, the journey is long, but every step brings growth.